Hey, it's Justin with Coughy Talk. I got Maria Green here. She is, where do you stay at now? Oakland County still?
I'm in Lansing.
Lansing, okay. Mm-hmm. And Maria is running for U.S. Rep here in the state of Michigan. And you also have a unique story of perseverance about our community and some of the worst things that can happen to the most legitimate people. Mm-hmm. Would you care sharing any of that, baby?
Yeah, so it's coming up on the 3-year anniversary of when my daughter, baby Bree, was removed by CPS. The whole case started because my ex was upset and called CPS on us and wanted to use our marijuana use against me in my custody battle with him. And CPS kind of latched on to that,
And this was right when things first initiated. This is right at the very beginning of when the law was passed in 2008, 2009, something like that.
This was in 2013, actually. So
wow.
The law had been in place for about 4 solid years. And they clearly did not have any training in how to work with medical marijuana patients at all, and how to combine that with child protection, So when they came out to my house, they originally said that everything was okay, but then they demanded to count my plants. They didn't mention things about making sure I had food in the house or beds or any of that. They wanted
focused specifically on your grow. And who demanded the count?
Just the CPS investigator and her supervisor were demanding the count.
Sounds a little out of line.
It was very out of line. I was a patient and a caregiver at the time. My husband was just a patient. And it wasn't that we were outside of plant count, but the decision had just come out of the Supreme Court saying that you can't let anybody else in your grow. It doesn't matter if it's your connected patient or anybody else. One person is allowed access to the grow, and if you let anybody else in, then it's a felony. So I basically told the investigator that I just can't let you count my plants,
because it sounds like there was some sort of entrapment playing out here. Mm-hmm. Whereby they could charge you with a crime and get full access to everything.
It very much.
At that point, you'd be subject to asset forfeiture and other things too.
Absolutely, and I'd heard about that happening where people said, "Oh, well, they told me I had to let them in, so I did," and then they slapped them with the felony based on that. So, long story short, we had told them, my attorney as well as us had said, if you just get a court order, we won't even contest it. Just get the court order that allows you into the room to count the plants. And they said sure, and we were set to go on Friday to get that court order. My attorney wasn't planning on being there. My husband wasn't planning on being there. We weren't contesting
Real
it
casual
anyways.
Event or something.
Right.
Okay.
And about 3 hours before the hearing, the agency called me and said, "Hey, we want to discuss our petition to remove your children this afternoon." And I literally dropped the phone and hung up on them. And
so that sounds like a straw man if I've ever heard one.
Oh yes.
They couldn't. It sounds to me like they weren't able to secure some sort of search warrant through the court, so they retaliated against you.
They didn't even try.
And they knew they wouldn't. It sounds like. So yep. I mean, what happened from there? I mean, did they remove your child?
Yep. The hearing that afternoon, there was packed with people, and the judge said basically, because there might be plants, which we don't actually know because we haven't actually seen them, makes your home a greater risk for armed robbery, which puts the children in danger. So
does a big screen TV.
Mm-hmm. Or jewelry, or pretty much anything.
So I mean, it sounds like they were fishing, obviously here. So they came and they took your child.
They ripped her out of my arms.
Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there's a video actually online through Lansing.
I'd just like to remind everyone, if I may, really quickly, that they're not even respecting the law whatsoever, because there's clearly clauses in there that provide protections for this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not subject to penalty in any manner or fashion whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Yet here we are.
Here we are. We told the investigator that. We showed her the law that's pointed out child protection, child custody protections. We made her sign the piece of paper that had it in there so that she knew
that you had shown her.
Mm-hmm. So,
those folks have no oversight either.
Mm-hmm.
The CPS people,
Nope.
they will, and if you make them angry, they will just
They
continue to
retaliate.
bull their way right through it. They'll just horn their way right through anything. So, sounds like that's what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously she knew what she was signing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, they took her right out of my arms. My daughter was 6 months old at the time and nursing. I used cloth diapers and we did everything naturally. So there clearly wasn't any actual safety issues.
You're going above and beyond at that point. Right?
Yeah. So
if you've ever changed a cloth diaper, you'll know what we're talking about.
So they tried to get us to plea a few times. They tried to get us to have a bench trial, which they do in every CPS case.
Sure, so that you can just hand your rights over and scare tactics.
Absolutely, like you've never seen before. We demanded a jury trial. We had a big fight. We were in court several times over the next 6 weeks. Our jury trial. Decided to give up and give her back. So
they eventually caved. You called their bluff. You stuck to your guns. You see what happens, folks? Mm-hmm. They knew that they had nothing, and sounds to me like they were a little worried about how a jury might interpret that.
Absolutely. The media storm had blown out of proportion as far as they thought. Our story had gone international at that point.
Oh. Yeah, I remember reading it. I remember reading it in the Oakland Press, and just the way that it was. They were talking about it. I mean, almost slanderous. You know what I mean? You could totally tell that somebody had stopped by.
Yes.
And said, "Hey."
I think it's funny because the Oakland Press was actually the one news source that was least slanted towards our side.
Yeah.
Every other story about it was very compassionate towards our story.
Well, I mean, the facts were obvious. I remember reading it, and I'm like, okay, he's got epilepsy. Mm-hmm. Okay, she's a caregiver. Okay, they don't even have like a full card. Like nobody's fully carded even. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling to see where there's a problem here. I'm like, there's a lot of presumptuousness afoot here. And I mean, that's just, there's a reason that the Michigan Protective Services and foster care system is under federal oversight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, after our story, I learned a lot about CPS. I kind of took our circumstances and just started researching, like, why would they do this? What, all the time we see stories of children who are taken from good homes or for no good reason, but yet we read stories of children that get killed or murdered in their homes,
left in terrible homes,
and because CPS did nothing. And so I really started, I didn't understand that. Why, how is CPS...
How is this a thing?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And I learned a lot about CPS funding and how our children, there's actually a child trafficking type thing going on.
Absolutely.
With them. Mm-hmm. So
family courts in general. Mm-hmm. I had a similar experience go on where... I was being militantly pursued in a family court case. Never been behind on child support, nothing. Somehow they're always finding a reason to drag me in. Mm-hmm. I did some research myself. I found an interesting book written by Carol Rhodes called Friend of the Court, Enemy of the Family. Mm-hmm. And she goes on to allude that essentially it's what you said, it's a racket. for children, whereby they generate show cause hearings and try to qualify for federal bonus dollars each year.
Absolutely.
There's 375 million, roughly, give or take. This number may have changed since I've read the book. 300 million or so dollars of bonuses available to judges and enforcement workers that generate the most show cause hearings. I mean, if you know anybody who's been through that nightmare, you can easily see it showing through there. And the terrible thing is the Child Protective Services and the family courts, they have zero oversight. They don't answer to any judiciary boards. They don't answer to anybody. There is a civilian review committee that usually is okay the first 2 years it's functioning, but then they lobby to get those positions filled. They fill them with their friends. It's nepotism to the finest.
And there's nothing really that they can do. We filed a grievance with the Child Ombudsman, which is, kind of like the oversight. He's
supposed to be the meaty, the making sure that nobody's overstepping their boundaries.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the report that we got back from them was absolutely they violated 3 different laws when they removed my daughter. They absolutely did not, do anything right. And basically, there was still nothing that they could do.
What happened.
Wrote a report.
That's what happened to me. I filed with the review committee or whomever the entity was, and we got a report back saying, they did a number of things wrong. Is there anything we can do about it? No.
Exactly.
So at that point, I realized what it was all about. So now you're running for U.S. representative too, right?
I am.
On the Green Party ticket?
Under the Green Party.
Green Party. So let me ask you a few questions about that. Did this obviously, and the marijuana community as a whole, did that really have an influence for you deciding to do this?
It had a big influence on me. That instance, my circumstances then kind of catapulted me into this activist role, which I never thought that I would take on before. And for now 3 years, I've been on the educating side of things, constantly talking to people and trying to change people's minds. And this year, I got to the point where I thought, educating just doesn't seem to be enough for me anymore. Like, it's time for me to go to the next step. And for me, that meant actually trying to change laws.
Yeah, I can respect that. I mean, educating, it's hard to compete against $1 million media corporations and disinformation without power or money.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it would make sense, and a lot of the problem in our political system today is like filing fees and stuff like that. So let's say, Green Party's all about affecting change directly. They're all about standing up to corporate greed and environmental responsibility. So let's say I wanted to run for U.S. representative. Is there a filing fee like there is for senator?
There's
so
not.
any Joe can run for U.S. representative. You hear that, guys? Everybody, you, right? So
the process was actually really simple. If you want me to go over.
Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to ask. Yeah.
At first, I thought about running under the Democratic ticket, so I researched that. In order to do that, you have to get 1,000 signatures from people within your district, and you have to file that with your county clerk. And once you do that, then you're on the primaries. Then you have to win the primaries, and when you win the primaries, you go into the general election.
Sure.
So that's actually really easy. There's no filing fee, just 2,000 signatures.
You just got to put some legwork in, get out there and
absolutely, and then start
yourself.
campaigning. Once you know that you're going to be in the primaries, you can start campaigning, and you start your committee for your fundraising and stuff like that. Get a bank account. You have to track every penny that you spend and receive. But it's no out-of-pocket cost for you. If you wanted to run as an independent, under the Democratic or Republican, it's the same for both parties. That has to be done by the middle of April or end-ish of April.
Under party rules?
Yes.
Okay.
In order to get onto the August primaries. If you want to run as an independent, then you have to get 3,000 signatures from people within your district. And that has to be filed. The deadline, I believe, is July 21st.
So the signatures, do they need to be Democrats?
Nope.
So as an independent, you are required under election law in Michigan to require 3 times the amount of signatures as you would if you were running under a major ticket. It's pretty demonstrative of, it's pretty sickening, honestly. It's pretty demonstrative of everything that's wrong with this system of ours.
Yep.
And why we shouldn't have a 2-party system.
Absolutely.
That's more to the point, I guess.
Yep. Now, if you want to run under a minor party, like Green Party or Libertarian, then the only thing you need is the party's nomination. You don't have to worry about signatures at all. You contact the party, they'll tell you how to go about it. In our case, I contacted the Green Party. They were really super nice. I told them who I was. They asked me some questions. I went to the convention.
Were they eager to get you out there and happy to have people on the,
Very much so. They, out of the 14 districts for U.S. House that are in Michigan, I think the Green Party ended up nominating somebody for 8 of those districts. So there's 6 districts in Michigan that are going without a Green Party nominee at all because there wasn't enough people that wanted to run for office. So
sounds like we've got a volunteer over here.
So join the Green Party. Our convention was on the 31st, and then all of our paperwork had to be in like the next business day, so like August 2nd or August 1st or something like that. So again, super simple. I didn't have to spend any money.
As it should be. As it should be. Anybody should be able to take part in the political process.
Absolutely.
That's part of like the type of diversity that should make a democracy, good and functional and everything it aspires to be in the national anthem, so that people can start standing again.
Right.
Well, that's great. It was great to have you by, and we should do another segment with you, and let's get some other people out here, maybe running under Green Party.
Definitely.
Jill Stein is running for president.
She
was on CNN and she held her own. Or I'm sorry, it was PBS, wasn't it?
Yes.
And they went back and edited her footage.
So she was on CNN too.
Was it CNN?
Yep.
And she just recently, I saw she went out and spray painted illegal on one of the bulldozers out there. I mean, that's my hero.
47 states she's part of now?
47. No.
43.
I believe it's 43.
Okay.
There's 3 states that she will absolutely not be on. You won't be able to vote for.
That's Virginia, Georgia, and South Carolina, if I'm right.
Shocker. I got to tell you, I'm
somewhere
really
around there. Don't quote the facts there, but yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't be certain. There's also, I believe, 3 more states where she's not going to be on the ballot, but you'll be able to write her in. And I think there's 1 state that she's filed for ballot access. We're still waiting to see how that's going. So. Yeah, that would make 43 that she's on the ballot, which is really fantastic. She is a hard worker, and
she's great. And I have friends in South Carolina. They didn't even know who she was. They had no clue. Never even heard of her. A few links later, a few tags later, that's who she's voting for. She was going to write in Alice Cooper. And now she's voting Jill Stein.
Nice.
So don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't achieve anything even through Facebook, Just those her platform speaks for itself.
Just as long as Facebook doesn't censor you as well, because that
I just had a problem with that.
Yes.
So.
They didn't like me. They didn't like me telling, ratting them out about them hijacking the US Uncut page. So.
What's really cool about the Green Party, and that I always try and add this to any interview that I do. A lot of people think that the Green Party is nothing more than talking about the earth, trying to save the earth, right? That must be
hippies.
The entire
No, it's a party of personal accountability. It's all thing. Like, we're worried about economic accountability, social accountability, environmental accountability.
We're actually worried about the people. That's the
thing. Is they're worried about
Yeah, people are surprised to hear that we have this great, awesome, very diverse platform, and
some really great people are part of it too.
Absolutely.
remember Ralph Nader was trying to legalize marijuana in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
You guys remember that? Yeah. All right. I think that concludes things.
All right.
Thanks for coming out. You going to
Thank
stick
you.
around for the roundtable?
I am.
All right. Great.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.